Good morning and welcome to our next session on the intersect of sustainability and technology. My name is Will Jackson-Moore. I have the envious role of leading PwC's global sustainability practice, 10,000 professionals around the world who are working with organizations, dealing with the opportunities and the challenges that climate change and sustainability brings to us. I'm joined today by Marie-Laure Leclerc de Souza, Regional CEO for JLL, and Guillaume Charpy, CEO of Carbon Works, who will give a little bit more detail on their backgrounds as we dive in. So maybe I'll just start with a little bit of context. Clearly, as a planet, we are not moving fast enough on decarbonisation and dealing with the challenges of climate change. We only need to look about what's happened recently in Brazil with the floods, the record high temperatures in India, or the forest fires in Canada, which for the first time ever continue right through the winter. Our analysis that we just published recently is that we need to decarbonise 7 times faster than we are doing currently to meet a 1.5 degree world that the Paris Accord identified. And I look at this through two lenses. There's things that we can be doing now with existing technologies to help decarbonise. We've recently done a study with World Economic Forum that shows with existing technologies we could reduce existing energy consumption by 31% by 2030, saving $2 trillion a year. So cost out, carbon out, good business sense. And that creates an opportunity for us then to develop and deploy technologies in the harder to abate areas. And certainly CEOs see the challenges of this. A recent CEO survey, 50% of CEOs saw that their business would be materially impacted by technology and 30% by climate change. I guess you could ask kind of what the other 50% and 70% thought was going to happen to their businesses as well, because I think most businesses are going to be impacted pretty significantly by this. So this intersect of sustainability and climate is a great topic for us here today. So maybe I turn over for my first kind of question is the built environment is one of the tough areas to decarbonise, and technology advances are going to really help in some of the areas. So maybe you could give us a little bit of your perspectives as to what technology is going to do for the built environment.
Thank you so much, Will, to give us the opportunity to discuss about something so fundamental. 40% of the emission of carbon are really coming from the buildings, 40%. So we can imagine the importance of taking care of that subject. We do it in JLL, as JLL is the first real estate company to have a net zero target validated by the SBTi in the world. So we are really deeply convinced that this is what we have to do in the future, in the year, such as the fact that our purpose today is to shape the future of real estate for a better world. So we try to be the ambassadors of the transformation and of the future of the real estate. JLL tries to be a pioneer on that environment and all our industry for the last years, knowing that we invested in creating a fund which is called Spark in 2018. And the idea is to bring to our client the best of the startup ecosystem for our clients, taking care of all the prop tech that we can give them to be sure that we can help them to invent, to innovate, and to embrace all that new trends. So we are leveraging technology to improve our client knowledge on the real estate development, to manage differently the businesses where our companies are working in, while we are trying to enhance the experience of those commercial spaces where we are all today. So the prop tech has for us a solid foundation in transforming the world, and JLL is a pioneer of that. Just to give you some little things that you know, but the possible use cases of data in commercial real estate are so huge. We can imagine, of course, taking care about the layout, optimizing it, using the spaces that are really used and not the the one that we think that they are used. So, for example, we are working with some startups that we are investing in, like Vantage. So, with Vantage, for example, you know who is connected from where every day, in a time to time, in a day to day, to be sure that we can have the good services in the building, to be sure that the electricity will be at the good time, that their air conditioning will be really used. So we are taking and and leverage all that data to be sure that we can use the good system, the good services in the good place, in the right place for the right people. So this is what we try to do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, great. Super exciting and such a fundamental pillar of what we need to do as society. Guillaume, if I could turn to you, maybe give us a little bit more background on your organisation and the really exciting kind of nature-based kind of carbon capture technologies that and approaches you're using, and maybe touch on how you're using data and AI to refine your approach.
Sure. Carbon Works, that's a bit different, of course. It's hardware company, first of all. It's a biotech company. Actually, we strive to invent a fossil carbon-free world. Energy transition is underway, so we are moving from a carbonized world to a decarbonized world on energy. But what about materials? Materials are mainly based on petrochemicals. Why? Because oil contains carbon, and carbon is key to materials and to our economy as such. But oil, we know that is not renewable, and we need to get access to other sources of carbon. So what are the renewable sources of carbon? One is nature, and the other one is CO2. Nature, it's very difficult because there is a fierce competition to get access to nature today from economic stakeholders. So there is the other one, which is CO2, and we are actually a CCU company, a carbon capture and utilization company. We capture CO2 and we transform it into materials. And how do we do that? We use microalgae. Microalgae, very short, are microorganisms, very small, a few microns. Most microalgae are photosynthetic microorganisms, so they naturally capture CO2 via photosynthesis. And the other capabilities, incredible capability they have, is that they are kind of microfactories to produce any kind of high-value molecule. I'm insisting on that, high-value molecules. So when you capture CO2 with microalgae, you can also, and actually that is the utilization, produce these materials. And that is what we do, actually focusing on agriculture and food, producing, for instance, biocontrol products instead of chemical or synthetic crop protection products, or biostimulants to fight against yield drop in agriculture because of climate change, precisely. So that's what we do, and the core of what we develop is to invent a technology which grows microalgae at a large scale, because today it's not the case. To give you two figures, conventional technologies can produce 70 tons of microalgae biomass per hectare and per year, 70 tons, and our goal is to reach 5,000 tons. And with this, to unlock the potential of microalgae. So in terms of digital aspects, biotech is really turning very fast and using a lot of digital possibilities. I can give you four examples maybe. First of all, we need to base our development. We are a deep tech company. We base our development on research made by many people around the world. So getting access to that research goes through AI actually to find the proper publication. A second aspect is when we work on genes, it uses a lot of calculation possibilities, capabilities. And of course, when you study a gene or a metagene with many different microorganisms, you need to reorganize this. And two additional examples, which are very important. One is very known today. That's the digital twins focused on process. Many industries use that, and we use this, making photographs of the microalgae and seeing if there is a disease, if everything goes well, and adapting the operation accordingly. And the last one is the digital twin of the microorganism, modeling the network, the metabolic network, to be able to understand how to enhance the production of this or that molecule at a lower cost.
I mean, thank you. I mean, that's a fascinating business. Biotech with advanced use of AI and data to, I guess, really drive business model reinvention in the production of high-value molecules. So I'll certainly be following up and doing a little bit more kind of research myself. That's absolutely fascinating. Now, from an AI and data perspective, incredibly valuable, the outputs, but it isn't without its costs. The expansion of data centers, the energy usage that we're seeing there, it's growing at an astronomical rate. I mean, what would your perspective be on the data centers, energy consumption, and how should we view that?
We have to take in consideration that over the next 5 years, the consumers are going to use 10 times more energy and power in the data centers because of the storage of the data, but also because of the use of the artificial intelligence, knowing that it's really power consuming, and power consuming means having some data centers globally. So there, firstly, we know that it will happen, and we have to take in consideration the fact that we need it because it's the way we are accelerating our business. So this is a fact. Data centers are really consuming, of course, power, but also cooling, and the power on the cooling of all that data centers. So we need to work on the energy efficient location where we are going to use maybe differently the energy. So the first thing will be, how are we going to have more greener energy than the one that we are using today? How the government are going also to take that in consideration in the fact that in the countries where the data centers are going to be located, the energy will be greener than the one that we can provide today, of course. And we have to imagine that, for example, we're in France, Paris, and France globally is the fourth largest centers in EMEA, after London, Frankfurt, and Amsterdam, where you have these huge data centers that are implementing in the region. So how are we going to give that green power on that? Knowing also that AI is going to help us to consume differently the power in that data centers. We were talking about the tools which can help us to do that, but also the IoT, which are going to be implemented in that data centers to see if the power is well used, and we can save even it, and we can reinvent it also. So everything is based on that, and of course on the location where the data centers are going to be. So are we going to be next to the rivers, next to the sea? How are we going to reinvent that? And of course, the technology is helping us to accelerate the needs of that and the thought of doing that. Secondly, we're talking also about the cooling, which is something where IA can help us a lot, like having more efficiency. You talked about all the way that we can use differently the carbon and the works of that, and maybe using other ways of having it that what we are using today, but everything is accelerating. So we do hope that your solution can go really faster than what we can see today. But we have to take in that consideration the strategic site location, where these data centers are going to be located, placed, so concerning this energy and the environmental goals of certain places in our region. GLL just acquired in May 2024 a company in the US, which is K, which is going to enable us to provide solution across the full sectors of center life cycle and had significant deeply and technical impact on the way we are going to build these new data centers and how they are going to be more efficient in the future using, as I told you, the renewable energies.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, Guillaume, Marie-Laure mentioned there about we need technologies such as yours to really accelerate the decarbonisation efforts. I mean, how open are big industrial users, industries more generally, to conversations about your technology and adoption? How open are industries, big industrial users, to having conversations with you about taking your technology forward at scale?
I would say it's a question of imagination. It's a question of imagination, because we are inventing a world which today does not exist, but will exist, and will be extremely different, or must be very different from the world we live in. And it's not easy for any of us to imagine what it will be, what must be a world, a fully renewable world. So I would say that companies which our partners buying our technology, buying for use, I mean, in the CCU there is carbon capture and utilization. Carbon capture everywhere, carbon capture, any company is aware that they should capture their carbon. So that's not a problem. The point is really the use, the utilization, and to invent new products, new ways of doing business based on those products. And I would say that it's really the companies which have more imagination, more capability to project themselves into the future, which really are curious about what we do, want to innovate, want to test, want to see what we can do, even if the solution would come in a few years' time, not now.
Okay, no, thank you. Marie-Laure, the decarbonisation of the built environment is going to require lots of different initiatives, some of them technology-based, but in many cases just a lot of smaller projects rather than one. There's no magic bullet, unfortunately. What's your take on the attitude of the C-suite to kind of adoption of those technologies across the built environment, their facilities, to drive reduction in energy and decarbonise generally?
So as you just said, we don't have any magical wands to help them, but what we can tell you is that 80% of the CEOs that we are really investigating with concerning the sustainability impact on their business told us that real estate was really in the heart of their strategy to be sure that they can be actors of that industry. Sometimes it's a bit frustrating because the current environment doesn't help us to execute exactly all the strategic plan that we are trying to help them to imagine, but the will is to transform the way that they are working. So their plan is to increase the real estate technology budget in the next years to see how they can have a deep impact on the way that they are working. And sustainability is a big driver for their company, for their business, for their brand, for their people, attraction and retention, which is important also for them. So sometimes they are forced to, depending on the legal regulation and the places where they're located, but in the same time, it's the only way and the future trend that we are looking at everywhere. So, for example, C-suite companies are looking for premium buildings with great location, but firstly also with sustainable items everywhere in their strategy. What we can tell you is that they are prioritizing technology that they are going to help them to reduce their company's environmental footprint. And there are 4 things to do that. Firstly is to invent on the renewable energy sources. So we are trying to help them to be sure that in all their office location, all their industry location, they will use more green energy than not green energy. The second one will be, of course, to have energy efficient system. We just a bit discussed about that concerning the IoT and all the ways that the tools are used to be sure that we can calculate exactly their needs and how to have them and to transform and to maintain. The third one will be, of course, the waste reduction, and this is maybe the most ancient plan that they have created in their company to work on that waste reduction, and of course a sustainable supply chain solution for mainly the industries or the way they are acting on themselves. So we try to have them in their next big thing in tech journey and to have them to progress, but it's a journey. It's not immediate, it's not easy, and they are trying to invest as much as they can on very pragmatic solutions.
And then back to the boardrooms of the large industrial groups that you're talking to. I mean, how do the C-suite CEOs view your technologies, and is it an open conversation? They're searching you out, or are you fighting to get into the boardroom to have the conversations?
Well, really depends on the people, depends on companies. Again, I've got many appointments here for carbon capture. But you have to realize that one point is to capture carbon, but afterwards you have to do something with the carbon. It's circular economy, so you can store the carbon, that's CCS, or you can use it as CCU, and that has nothing to do. So we have to, and the CEOs are, generally speaking, open to that, but to imagine how they can replace their own products based on fossil carbon by products based on renewable carbon. Generally speaking, there is enthusiasm in this. Afterwards, it's more a question of putting means. That is research on our side, that is research on their side. Because, of course, it will not be exactly the same product, so they will not get exactly the same benefit from what they get from fossil carbon-based products. But generally speaking, and I saw that when we spoke about these possibilities, generally speaking, there is a lot of enthusiasm from CEOs.
Great. Well, thank you for your time today. I hope people have got a lot out of the content. I will ask you to go away, though. You have some homework from this session. Use the time here to kind of understand more about the technologies that you're seeing around and how they intersect with sustainability. It's absolutely not that we think about sustainability here and then we think about technology over there. There's a great interplay, and there are challenges around the energy side on AI, but there's a huge amount that AI is going to do to help us drive climate change. And then back to my opening, where I said we'd identified right now with existing technologies how we can reduce energy consumption by 31%. Please do go home and think about what technology you can deploy in your own home and set yourself a challenge. How do I use technology to reduce my personal energy consumption by 31%, and then drive that into your organization and with your friends as well. So thanks very much for your time today, and thanks to my co-presenters. Any questions? Sorry, we have time for questions. No. Oh, yeah, question here. Yeah. Cool.
So, one thing you touch on is the regulation. So, what can we expect from governments in order to speed up, I would say, the resources, the investment from companies, etc., to reduce their carbon footprint?
Yeah.
This is a difficult question, Anouar. Thank you for asking it. I had a very good meeting a few weeks ago with the big real estate director for the state, for the French state. You have to take in consideration that in France, the state is owning 91 million square meters of offices and other type of buildings. To transform them only on the décret tertiaire, which is really French, but it has to be transformed in 2030, they need 500 billions of euros to transform them. So they act as we have to do that. The operate system is on for all the buildings, but they don't have the minimum to start to invest in. So the will is there, the goal is there, everyone is looking for the money. And the government wants to do that, but even in the public sector, it's not easy to transform it. So maybe it could be also something to everyone. How can we imagine the green financial in the next years, which will help, of course, to apply what's in the will of the government?
And you're also seeing different approaches in different jurisdictions. So the US have taken a much more of an industrial policy approach with the Inflation Reduction Act, close to $1 trillion of support for industries to drive green technologies. In Europe, we've tended to take more of a regulatory approach, but which is also driving change. The more that organisations are reporting and disclosing information, the more that they'll start doing something about it. So some like quite two different approaches, both of which are driving change. I think realistically, both levers need to be pulled at the same time in order to achieve what we need to do.
Thank you. Marie-Laure, I have a question for you as well. So obviously JLL is a really big company. You mentioned that you acquired a company recently in the US in your efforts of the content of this discussion. Are there any other efforts that you do apart from acquiring companies? Do you work with startups? Do you have entrepreneurial projects to sprout these ideas within in-house, or any other things that you do in-house?
So, as I said at the beginning, we created in 2018 a fund which is called Spark, in which we are helping startups. So we helped 400 startups around the world, mainly around prop tech, which can help our clients to find the best ways and solutions. So we have a lot of these startups, and we invested 340 million euros, which is not, or dollars, sorry, which is not so much when you are in VivaTech, but in the same time, it's the first start. We wanted to be sure to approach startups which can find very easy and quick win solution for our clients, and they are based in Europe, they are based in the global world. So I talked about VerSense, but I can talk about also ENC, for example, or HQO, and these startups are really trying to find not the magical ones, but little quick wins everywhere to be sure that we can help our clients to find a good way to do so.
Okay, we've got probably time for one final question, so thank you.
Thank you so much for the great panel. So a question to all of you, but especially the potential carbon removal buyers on the panel. How do you view the advancements within the EU carbon removal certification framework as to supporting your own net zero journeys?
If I get your question, CCU is not a system which allows you to reduce your CO2 emissions, because CCU is not a question of storing CO2 and make it disappear. It's a question of using it for other usage. So it's not, today at least, it's not within the ETS system. And the ETS Do I answer your question?
Okay, well, thank you all for joining us today, and hope you enjoy the rest of VivaTech. Thank you.
Thanks.